Minutes after 1 o'clock, welcome back. This is the midday view here on eNCA, DSTV channel 43. Thank you very much for joining us. Now we're going to bring you for the next 15 or so minutes a focused discussion around this issue. Yesterday, Communications and Digital Technologies Minister Khumbudzo Ntshavheni announced that at the end of March next year, that's 2022, South Africa should have completed its digital migration process. This decision will see all analog transmitters being switched off across all 9 provinces. Well, I'm joined now in the studio by the CEO of eMedia Holdings, Khalik Sherrif, and the CEO of the Broadcast Research Council of South Africa, Gary Whitaker, to unpack this decision. Gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the Midday View. It's not very often you get to interview your big boss, you know, here on the Midday View. Khalik, welcome. First up, what is your reaction to the announcement by the minister yesterday? What's your take?
My first take is based on the fact that it's put out there as if we are absolutely agreeing partners to the whole decision and the whole plan. We absolutely are not. We are not agreeing to the plan because we don't believe it's achievable at all. We are, of course, of the opinion that analog switch-off must happen. Absolutely it must happen. But in the way it is being rushed now, it is absolutely unachievable to do this by January 2022. And that's for many reasons. There's a box shortage. There's no boxes. STBs are not available. There's chipset shortage around the world in all industries that depend on chipsets, okay? There's the logistics on installations. How's it going to be done? 5.6 million households in this country do not or rely on analog transmission, okay? How are you going to get them all across the line? What's going to happen? You need to do around 400,000 boxes a month to meet, or 500,000 boxes a month to meet the January date. It's not going to happen. Absolutely not.
So that detail is not in the plan that was announced by the minister. In your view, you need that kind of nitty-gritty?
Yes, you absolutely need that. We've been trying to get a plan across. It's not been heard. Absolutely not been heard. And I think this is an absolute problem for the country. There are people who are going to be left in the dark. There's going to be no television available to many millions of households. And that's the problem.
So Gary, let me bring you in from the Broadcast Research Council. I mean, it's not a no-brainer today that we have to migrate from analog to digital, as Khalik says, but you do need a plan. And the timelines that are being given, he seems to think that they are not feasible. Your view?
I agree with Khalik. So we run TAMS, which is the Television Audience Measurement Survey. And that's a tool that is used in the industry for trading, for the broadcasters to sell their ad inventory. That's done via a passive viewing panel. So these are households in South Africa that are drawn. We establish the universe and we draw households that are representative of the TV universe in South Africa. The TV universe in South Africa is roughly 15.9 million homes. Our panel is over 3,000 homes, and like I said, they represent the 15.9.
Is that the whole size of the TV universe?
The whole size of the TV universe. Now, within our panel, we have various segments. One of those segments are analog-only homes. And we measure their viewership. And they make up roughly 28% of our panel. But if you weight that up to South Africa, real numbers, of the 15.9 million, as Khalik said, that's 5.6 million homes. If we were to turn off the analog signal, our homes are affected. And we have to reflect what is actually happening in the market. So when the signal goes off, anyone on our panel that loses signal, we don't throw them out of our panel, they stay on. And they get measured as nil viewing, 0 viewing. Their viewership cannot be traded as a currency. The broadcasters cannot make money.
And so it's important that that measurement must happen properly. So Khalik, the level of consultation, if I may ask you as the group CEO of media, between the minister and broadcasters in putting together this switch-off plan that was announced yesterday, how has that been?
Now, Dan, before we go to that, I just want to pick on what Gary was talking about and what the negative impact will be on free-to-air broadcasters. I mean, you understand the free-to-air broadcasters make the money from advertising.
Yes.
Now you switch off everybody on a date, the hard switch off. as Gary said, they won't be measured. Advertisers will be disappointed. Marketers will pull away. Free-to-air broadcasting in the country stands to be in jeopardy because we lose our businesses. That's what will happen. But we're not saying it mustn't happen. All we're saying is that there must be a planned approach. What we're saying, and we think it can happen in 15 to 18 months, the first phase. Let me explain this, Dan. You must give me the time. Okay? The first phase is this. What the country needs is to give spectrum to the mobile network operators. That's the urgent need. Okay? To give the spectrum to the mobile network operators. The president even said that. We need to do that. Now, the spectrum that's occupied by the mobile network, that is needed by the mobile network operators, is above a certain megahertz, 694 and upwards. So I'm getting very technical now, Gary. Please give me a minute, right? So, we have a plan in which we can release the spectrum to the mobile network operators within 15 to 18 months. We presented that plan, a logical plan. I wish there's a slide or two that can come up on that. And it was not heard at all. Now to answer your consultation question. There has been no consultation. We were called to a steering committee meeting. There has been two. 2 weeks ago on a Friday, we got a presentation at the steering committee meeting that we had never seen before. Okay? We didn't see it. And this is not about ETV. This is about free-to-air broadcasting. We didn't see the plan. Immediately the presentation was presented to us, we were asked of our opinions. We gave our opinions. And we asked, at the end of the opinions, we asked everybody around the room, why isn't there any more objection to what is going on here?
And
we were subsequently kicked out of the meeting.
You were kicked out of the meeting?
We asked to leave. We had to leave the meeting. Subsequent to that, we were called to another meeting last Friday, in which time we presented what we think, and given the industry experts around us, think is a feasible plan. But we were not heard. Absolutely not heard.
Are there other voices like yours, Khalik, as ETV, who are frustrated by this process?
I'm sure they are. I can tell you now, the community broadcasters will be frustrated by this process. Absolutely. I can tell you that anybody who's interested in television, interested in making sure that the electorate has a voice, has a communicable voice to it, will have an objection to this. But listen, Dan, the point is, we are not objecting. We are not objecting to analog switch off.
Now, you've made it very clear. You've made it clear, not once, not twice.
Absolutely.
You are objecting to the process, the timing,
Absolutely.
and how it's rolling out. How will it disadvantage free-to-air channels,
businesses
of course.
and people, the country at large. They'll go dark.
So is that where, let me bring you in there. Thanks, Khalik. Is that there where your concern is that households as well will then be switched off, then the market will be losing on an audience that currently is consuming broadcasting channels?
Yes, it is concerning. TAMS, the BRC TAMS, which is the measurement survey in South Africa for TV trading, it is the one source of truth.
And everybody uses TAMS.
Everyone uses it. There's no other currency that is used in the market between broadcasters, advertisers, media agencies. It is the one source of truth. The establishment of the universe that goes into TAMS, that is the TV universe. There are no other figures that you can turn to. There's nothing that we can do as the BRC to try and, change what's going to happen if there's a switch off. We can't take houses out and put live houses back in. We have to mimic what's going on in South Africa, unfortunately.
Okay, just get an understanding. If this process is run, like Khalik is at pains to explain that you need time for it, how many set-top boxes, for example, would you need for them to be rolled out properly and support a better managed, let me use that word, a better managed migration?
There are a couple of factors here, and there's some case studies from other markets in Africa, the likes of Tanzania, and what they did in terms of getting hardware into the market, but also the education needed. And in many markets in Africa, you're looking at anywhere from 18 months to a 5-year plan. I'm not saying that's what we should do. I'm just saying these are the case studies that we've looked at. And then getting the hardware into homes, being a researcher, wanting the panel to be stable and also to be fair to the free-to-air broadcasters, I would expect there to be 100% penetration of the hardware.
But what are the numbers? Do you know?
Currently the numbers? I think Khalik is more informed on that.
We think there's 5.6 million households are still receiving this on analog, right?
Okay.
Just to give you, just to deviate a little bit. For the free-to-air broadcasters, every day the people are watching television. More than 50% of the people watching television in this country are watching it through analog. Think about that. Now, if you extrapolate those numbers further, there are people already who have satellite. Whether it have the pay satellite, whether it has the free satellite, there are people that have satellite. If you take it that there would probably be in the region of about 3 million, I would think. The exact figures are in a presentation, which I can let you have. But if you take that to be, and you can only do up to 2,000 boxes a day more in sort of, what you call that? The word is...
Distribution?
Distribution or sort of connecting them, all right?
Yes, yes.
So when you get that, you can only do 2,000 a day to 60,000 a month. If you want to do 2 million, divide that by 60,000 a month, that's how many months it's going to take.
It's quite a lot, yeah.
Okay.
And in this period, this time period, if you just switched off there, you're going to disadvantage a lot of people.
Absolutely.
That's the point that you are making. More than just a business decision or concern or commercial concerns or market concerns, there's an issue of access to information and people being able to consume their regular daily doses of news and other content as well. So there's a bit of it. Why do you? I must ask you this, Khalik. Why do you think the minister decided to announce this at such short notice, and why do you think they are targeting this deadline, which you feel is not achievable?
You know, I absolutely can't answer that. The only way I can answer that is to tell you that is an impractical solution to the problem. I don't understand why it is such. Is there a political agenda to this? Is there political brownie points to be earned at the expense of 5 million, 6 million South African households? I don't understand what's the motivation there. But what I do understand is that it must be done, and it will be done in time.
Now, how long could that be, Gary? You said Tanzania 15 months to 5 years. I know that Mozambique currently, they are busy migrating because, you know, they're busy moving from analog to digital. I don't know for how long they've been doing it. So everybody is doing it. And as Khalik has said, nobody's against the migration. Nobody's against from a move from analog to digital. Is how we are doing it.
So I believe Khalik and his team have presented a rollout plan of what they think is feasible in terms of a first phase. I don't know the nitty-gritties of that. All I would say is that in terms of our panel, any households going dark and then coming back on, we would have to give them a grace period. No matter what you do, you're going to lose ratings. In this, around the world, we've seen it. When there is a switch over from analog to DTT, you lose ratings. And you allow the panel to then normalize, and you allow houses that are dark to come back on. What that period is, we don't know. And it differs by every market. If this was an exact science, we'd know exactly what to do. And actually the government would say, well, we're going to follow what happens in the rest of the world. But it's different by every market.
Is TAMS, the platform TAMS that you're using, enabled in a way to take that phased process of migration?
It would be a natural phase-out process. So ideally, as researchers, we want as much time as possible. So the deadline now, as it stands, we know that there's going to be severe impact on the free-to-air channels. Any extra time that we can get where we can see the panel stabilizing, that will benefit us. Just something else to note, in terms of, I talk about establishing the TV universe. It's very important for our study that we establish the TV universe, and we have to do that on a continual basis. With this analog switch off, we've had to halt our plans in terms of establishing the universe because the universe is going to change. As soon as you flip a switch and analog goes off, the TV universe changes. But then, once people come back on, it changes again. So there's a lot of research investment needed for us to keep television audience measurement healthy in South Africa. But as it stands now, we're reluctant to push the button on very, very important initiatives that keep our study healthy.
Okay, but let me bring you back to Khalik, just a bigger picture thing.
Yeah.
With this migration, who's going to be able to receive DTT? What is the goal here? Where are we headed?
You see, the digital terrestrial television is where we should be going because that's a digital age. Unfortunately, in our country, it has failed and is failing. Over the last 15 years, just over 500,000, I stand to be corrected, I'll even go to 600,000. About 600,000 households have been connected to the DTT, terrestrial television. Now, as it stands in South Africa, it's an inferior product. Why? Because our DTT plans are based on muxes, right? Again, I'm getting very technical, okay? But the muxes that are available to us are 2. Now, the world is going into HD. Not even HD, is going to 4K, okay? In the South African plan at the moment, if you go to DTT immediately, the normal South Africans that do not pay for TV will only be able to get about 8 channels in HD. In SD, they'll be able to get about 25 channels in SD. Is it the plan of this government to keep our country behind when the rest of the world is in digital and in HD and 4K? I think it's unfair. So the DTT aspect of South African television is absolutely not working. So what has happened? Recently, in the recent past, there's been a leaning towards satellite television. That is free satellite. There's a free satellite operator, ourselves, OpenView, and of course, you know the people, DSTV, all right? There's been a leaning towards that. So the state is saying, implying, you guys, you sell your boxes through. Let those people who get your boxes be counted as those that have been digitally migrated. So the future of DTT, if I may answer your question directly now, is absolutely very, very unstable.
Yeah, and from what we know, I mean, it's government policy from what we hear on other issues to embrace 4IR, and you have to have an opportunity to leapfrog. So you don't want to get stuck in a system that's going to be obsolete, so
Absolutely,
to speak,
you're right.
in the near future. So just as I mean, we've been talking here for quite some time. I'm just wondering. You seem to be frustrated, Khalik, that you're not being heard, you said.
We're not being heard,
You're not being heard.
Yeah.
What are you going to do now? The minister has announced March 2022.
I can tell you what we're going to do now. We're going to have to take the only recourse available to us. And I'll say, okay, we're eMedia, but we're fighting free-to-air. We're fighting for free-to-air television in this country. And what is the recourse? We have to go to the court. There's no other way. Because we are definitely not partnering with the Department of Communications on this matter. Yesterday's release that said that certain TV channels and broadcast CEOs are part of the steering committee. But the only reason we're in the steering committee is because we don't want to be left out on decisions that are made around our business. We are a stakeholder in this business, in this industry. So that is why we're part of the steering committee. But I can tell you, as I said before, we've challenged every number in the steering committee. We've challenged the decisions in the steering committee about January 22 or March 22. We've been very, very vociferous around the fact that we object to the plan, but we want a plan that we think that we all can sit around the table and really be beneficial to everybody, to free-to-air television, to everybody, even to the president's need of getting the spectrum given off to the mobile network operators.
Okay, so it's going to end up in court, and that's going to delay matters even further. I don't know. Gary, parting words from you?
Yeah, in terms of the BRC upholding the TAM's currency as a trading currency and its health, we have to abide by what's happening in the market. And we will be agile as far as we can. So if there is a switch off by March, that's when we will enact our plans to establish a new TV universe, which will take into consideration less TV viewers. The TV population will decline, but we will reflect that.
And when the TV population declines, our business is in jeopardy.
Yeah. So there is that commercial reality. But I think you could not answer, obviously, you couldn't answer my question, why do you think the minister has done this? It would be good for us as well to engage with the minister to understand exactly what's behind this and how do they see the future and all those DTT issues you've mentioned. Khalik, Sherrif, thank you very much. He's a group CEO of eMedia. And of course, Gary, thank you very much for being here with us from the Broadcast Research Council. Still ahead.